What up, everybody? It's your boy Sterling. Welcome to the Sterling Hines Podcast show. It's yours truly. I have a special guest today. I want my special guest to introduce himself.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Shah Blacq, Shahcast Network, head of Toast After Dark. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, bro.
That's good.
Good to have you in studio, Shahcast Studios.
We definitely here. So look, I wanted to do something today. So I want to ask you a few questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is the engine behind your story? What inspired you to start podcasting?
Ooh, I didn't know you was going here. All right. No, what started me to start podcasting was, I have a voice. Obviously, I started doing poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me into, I wanted to expand it beyond just the standard format of poetry.
Right.
And just talk to the people. And so what's a better way to talk to people? What do I do all day at work? I listen to podcasts. Mm-hmm. So why don't I just try out podcasting? And then eventually, that's what I ended up doing. I tried it out. I remember when you started doing it, I was like, I'm supposed to get mine. We were supposed to start together, if you remember.
Mm-hmm. You
started doing yours. I'm like, man, I got to do it. I got to do it. And I pushed it off for a minute. Then the pandemic came. I was like, you know what? It's the perfect time. Perfect time.
All right, so you started the podcast. What was going through your head as you was going through the motions? Was it like, I hope this don't be a failure? Or like, what are some of the things that was going through your head as you were starting the podcast?
You know, I didn't look at it in terms of success or failure, because I knew it was going to be a struggle. I'm not new to the entertainment world. You know what I mean? I wasn't worried about that. I figured consistency would be key. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't necessarily worried about that. What went through my mind more so was certain quality aspects. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I wait so long is because I'm very particular about how I want to sound, how I want things to be presented, how I want things to look, which is why it took so long for us to even come on video. Mm-hmm. I was very particular about not just putting anything on air just to say I have video. Right. I wanted it to be kind of streamlined, kind of look nice and neat. You don't have to be the best, but look nice, presentable situation.
Do you feel like you took the same approach with podcasting as you did with poetry? Like, do you feel like you took that same approach, or was it a different approach with it?
See, with poetry, for me, it was all about learning the ropes first. It was about looking at what everybody else is doing, seeing where necessarily. I mean, it's similar in that way. You look at what everybody else is doing. You see what they're not doing. You kind of look at what you want to do. You kind of find your niche, that little thing that you may be looking for. In terms of the approaches, I mean, it's different. It's different forms of entertainment. Mm-hmm. With poetry, it's more serious. It's more got to teach you something. You know, got to learn something. And sometimes it's not. Poetry could be anything. That's what they say. Poetry can be anything. But podcasting literally can be anything. There's cooking shows. There's shows about marijuana. There's shows about hip hop, jazz, black culture. So I found more freedom in doing this than doing anything else.
So I want to stay on the poetry subject just a little bit. See, now that both of us we both have our own right. How many poetry albums did you have? Come on.
I did 2 proper. And I did about 4 little EP mixtape stuff.
Okay. Now with both of us being like in the spoken word game, poetry game, a little bit more. What was the process of that working on your first one?
Ooh.
Like what was going through your head when you was being in creative mode?
It's funny you say that because I'm approaching 15 years of being in the game of doing.
By the way, you was one of the inspirations behind me starting it.
Well, thank you.
I wouldn't have done it if I didn't see you take the length of doing it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too. I see you doing your thing. I said, okay, Sterling.
Yeah. It was great, but it's not about me. Go ahead.
But, I'm sorry. What was the last question?
What was pretty much what was the driving force doing that? What was your thought process? What was the creative mode? How did you get into creative mode while doing the first poetry album?
Oh, okay. So for me, I work a little backwards. Mm-hmm. And you may remember this from, here's a little history, people. Me and Sterling used to plans to make venture in the hip hop world when we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember this, but we used to make the album and the album titles first.
We both did that.
Yes.
Before the writing process.
Yep. And I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I came out with I wrote a poetry album called Black King Spills. I knew the title was going to be Black King Spills. And from there, I formed the format. I made a whole 17-track playlist of songs or poems I wanted to have. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them, I made altercations to what actually became natural. But the general idea and theme for this album is going to be this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have this many tracks, this many skits. We did skits back then. And this is what I was going to do. What I wanted to do was I wanted to do everything on my own at the time, but I couldn't. I didn't have the resources, the funding, the backup, anything. So I had to outsource everything.
Right. It's so much easier working like that now because how much stuff technology had upgraded nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. I went to Harry Enigma Graphics for my cover art. Shout out to him. I went to KV Cav for the studio time and recording and the beats and the instrumentals. Shout out to him, KV Cav. And we came out with a dope project. I think it's probably one of my finest work in terms of complete whole albums, but it's such a rookie out. Like I listened to it the other day, and it was such. It's so young, but it's me at 22.
Yeah, I think that's how I look at my first project. My first project, I only had 7, and from this project and recently releasing the second project, you could tell a difference, a major difference. You know what I'm saying? Working with the first album.
Yeah.
First album, like, it was just, I was working from hurt with the first album. So
poetry from pain is always the lead off.
Yeah.
A lot of my poetry comes from pain. Yeah. A lot of it.
And that's how I created Burning Rose, because I was working from a hurt place. Listen to Heart is from, if you listen to Heart is from a more stable place of, because it's like a mood that you kind of be in, like you're showing the process of healing. So Burning Rose is the fall.
Okay.
It's the hurt, the pain. Heart is the process of healing. The next one is going to be me being almost there. And then the last one is going to be the completion. Okay.
So your whole album has a theme, like all the albums have one big theme.
Yes.
Like Avengers and
yeah.
Okay, I see what you're doing.
The creativity for me came like just from inspiration of Hurt and things of that nature. I had more fun doing the second one.
Well, yeah, the first one's always you're nervous.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do. You don't know what to expect. So I get that.
The second one was more of a fun process. I didn't have any doubt with the second one. So now, first one, I'm definitely going to kind of redo the first one and kind of re-release it.
You should wait a while.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna do.
Wait about 5 years.
Yeah. Hey, I guess the question I was looking for is like, how did you know who was what and what was it? Because I know finding the perfect, because it's the perfect team to me. Everything went together so well, the way that all of us gelled. Like, the question I'm asking is like, did it just kind of come together, or you was just like sitting back from afar like Reed Richards? And
I definitely sat back from afar and think about what pieces and what do I need. The first person, we did a couple episodes. Remember, our first few episodes was early, and I call that, even though that's still part of season 1, I call it season 0. Mm-hmm. Those first few episodes at Mom's Basement, that was like season 0. Around January, like when we added Emma, I think I was like, okay, this is a bet. Mm-hmm. She gelled well with us. She's doing her thing. I was like, and then when May came along, I was like, everything started to come together naturally. Me and you was already good, so I knew that was going to be fire. I was worried about, funny thing, I tell this to him all the time. I was worried about Rob and Christian and the way Christian presents himself and carries himself. And
But it was perfect.
And Rob was more on the hood side a little bit. I didn't think they would go to Metro, but it matched pretty good. Well, they're best of friends, almost damn near.
I think that it gelled together because how we were so different but the same in certain ways.
Yeah, that too.
It's almost like the Avengers, like, oh, he has his power, this is his power, but for some reason
I call us my joke, my inside joke is we are the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You have these 5 or 6 ragtag people that look or act nothing alike for the most part, and they all come together. We all make magic together. I think that's beautiful.
It is. So before we get up out of here, I want to tell a funny story about how me and Shah Blacq met. So look, me this dude, we working at Wendy's, right? So I meet him, and I asked him, what I asked you, could you sweep the floor?
Yeah.
I asked him, like, can you sweep the floor for me?
Let's add a tad bit of reference. It's obvious that the supervisors had on like polo shirts and the workers had on like these button-ups, or vice versa, whichever one. So it was obvious of who was a supervisor, who was not. Okay, continue with your story, Sterling.
So to go further with this story, I'm like, hey, Shah. I called him by his real name at the time, but I'm like, Shah, can you sweep the floor? He like, you ain't no manager. You ain't got on a manager shirt. And I just look at him like, this motherfucker. And we beefed for the first couple months with one another. Not hard, but it was just like, man, I don't like that kid.
When I look back at that too, it's funny because around that time, and I'm gonna tell you why I knew we were destined to be friends. God, like, it's funny. God speaks to me in certain weird ways, right? Like, I used to joke around that time when somebody like played the dozens with me, or we joke around, or even if it's not a joke, like if I'm really talking shit to you, I would say something to the effect of blah blah blah, your mama, right? And someone was like, don't say that. And I was like, and when I found out everything about you, I was like, oh, thank God. I'm glad I didn't say that. Because we would have been beefing.
I think we came together. Everything was meant to be because, man, we was trying with the whole creative thing. We came together on the music, hip hop.
Yeah.
We was hip hop heads, just music heads, and it was the phones. Then it was like
oh yeah, I remember you used to sell Metro. You used to advertise them like, hey, man,
look
Metro,
here, man, I got this phone, and this phone does this.
It's only $20 a month, whatever it was back then.
It did seem like I used to sell Metro.
It did. You was very pro Metro.
Yeah, I was for them when they first started, and I stopped doing that because it was kind of corny. I hadn't been leaving them. I wanted to go to the big boys, back to the big boys after that.
That's funny. So,
man, this has been a pretty good interview. You didn't even know I was going to do this.
I had no idea. This is dope.
This is what I've been wanting to do this episode for a long time, but I feel like people should know more about you. Just put it out there.
I appreciate that.
I don't. We made a lot of magic together over the past years.
Yeah.
To come and meet in the dead middle of something nice, beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And what's next for me is expanding the Shotcast network. Of course, I'm back in the poetry scene. I'm doing Wine Toast Poetry. Mm-hmm. That's going to be fire.
I'm going to be featured on there.
Definitely. So it's just about working what I have right now between the poetry and the podcasting and just expanding and building. At this point, I want to be a river of knowledge, a river of help. I don't want to take away. I want to add to it, and I want to leave a legacy for my kids.
And I think I'm expanding more, doing more producer work, working more behind the scenes with a lot of other people in the future, and continue to write, man. I start back writing music again, so I'm gonna be writing. I'm gonna get my Neo on again.
Okay, that's fire.
And people just, if you hear something, it's gonna be one of the moments where y'all hear something and y'all gonna see the credits, and it's gonna be magic from here on out.
That's what it's about.
I'm telling you. All right, people, that's been our show. This has been the Sterling Hines Podcast show. Like I said, this is, to me, it's going to be one of the dopest shows. Y'all got to check it out, man. Shah got a story. We all got a story, man. Check it out. This was just the start. thinking about doing part 2, but he don't know it. But man, that been our show today.
Peace.